We will go live. All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mortgage Coach Friday Mastermind. Every Friday, 9 o'clock Pacific. It's just pure awesomeness. You've always got amazing leaders, special guests. My name is Dave Savage, CEO of Mortgage Coach. I've got with me Jen Duplessis is my co-host. Say hi, everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
Say hi.
Hi.
Sorry.
Good morning, everybody.
So this is a little different format because we have one of the regular leaders of this community as the special guest today. So usually Michele Town, $100 million producer and just amazing human being, is one of the hosts of this call. But today we're putting her on the hot seat and she is the special guest. Good morning, Michele.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. So guys, I would love for this call to be especially interactive with engagement. So if you're watching this from Facebook, comment below, ask questions, share takeaways. It is going to be flooded with important content because today's call, it's really simple. The concept's never been simple or simpler. How can we be amazingly effective and amazingly productive? And I would even go as far as to say, not only is this going to be valuable as a mortgage professional, because we're going to, Michele's going to bring this to you as a mortgage professional for mortgage professionals. But I mean, this is something that everybody can watch. I'm going to forward this to my wife and kids because it's going to be all pulling from the things that we've learned from Darren Hardy and his insane productivity program and his ludicrous program. That's the inspiration for this call. So we're pulling from just concepts, ideas, and strategies that will help you be more productive. Jen, anything you want to say to open this up before we bring on Michele and let her get after it?
I would just say, and I know you're going to talk about this too, if you're part of our community now and you still have not signed up for Insane Productivity, Dave's going to post it on Facebook again. And, there's Insane Productivity is very universal. It's for any business. But Darren and Dave put together a mortgage piece of it, and I was fortunate enough and honored to be part of that. So I would say if you've never involved yourself in Insane Productivity, now is the time, and you're going to learn from someone who has gone beyond just the Insane Productivity program, but also into full coaching and mentorship with Darren. And so I would just say, listen in, take really, really good notes, and consider being part of Insane Productivity once we're finished today.
And the cool part is, one, there's a $1,000 discount as a Mortgage Coach member if you click on the link, and two, there's Darren's Insane Productivity program. There's his ludicrous program. There is like this insane productivity for mortgage professionals, and Todd Bookspan, Jen, Michele. A lot of great mortgage professionals. We tailored it. There's things that Darren teaches, like, I think it's 5 jam sessions a week, and we made some edits to it. So with that said, I really want to bring Michele on. Let's all give Michele a hand. Woo, Michele Town.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Hey, Dave, can you roll that video? It's perfect to talk about making everything so productive. This is how Darren starts his HPF high performance program. Is literally, this is one of the videos, and I absolutely love it. So hopefully everybody will enjoy it.
Now, by the way, when you say let it roll, am I supposed to because it's like a 9-minute video?
No, it's not 9 minutes. Just let it go. Stop it. I'll tell you when to stop it. Let's go.
Can you see it right now?
I can see it.
Okay, hang on. Let me change my mic. I didn't know that you were literally going to have me play it. Give me a second. Can you hear it, Michele?
I can, but we can stop it. I think we're going to get the point. So let's go ahead and pause it now. So I want you to look at, there's 12 people in that pit stop. There is a driver coming in. That would be us as the leader, and then everybody's working in conjunction, and that car is out in, 2 seconds at flat. That's the key to being into like the motorsports. That's how important it is. And that's what Darren talks about, is how do we make you guys so productive that this is what you feel, right? So it's pretty cool. So I hope you enjoyed it. It gets you all, it gets you all ramped up. And he uses a different video than this one, but it's very close. So
guys, I put this video in our Facebook group. If you're watching to the recording, there'll be a link down below. So if you take today's call and you say, hey, let's play this at a sales meeting, or you meet up with your team, you'll play the video to kick things off, and links down below. Michelle?
All right, thanks. So, I mean, that video is really, to me, kind of the epitome of what was the perfect loan process. So I used that video to show my team so they could understand. I go, I'm feeling that we've got processing, we've got underwriting, we've got sales, we've got everybody working together, and I'm the team lead that drives in. You guys support me, change my tires, put the oil back in me, do whatever, and shoot me back off. And that was, it was a great thing for them as well to understand that I needed to be the leader and not the person putting on the tires anymore. I really like that. Darren talks a lot. There's so much in his high performance. We could spend, this was 3 days, and I have to go back because I only probably absorbed 10%. But what I wanted to start with was, he talks a lot about seducing your client. I think throughout this last year, we've all been talking about how important our past clients are. And I have a couple of things, and once I get a green light to share them with you, I will give you a couple of questions. So the first thing is identifying your client, right? So how do we know how to market to our client? And do we know who our client is? So one of the questions that he asks is, that he helps you kind of identify your client is, look at who our target client audience is. So first we have to be able to identify that, right? And how do we do that? We look at how do we inspire our clients? What do we do that challenges our clients? And this is all to marketing to your client. What do we do that's passionate about our client? And so how do we find out who that is? And how we find out who that is we ask the questions, and he calls it the client profile map. So I'm just going to give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that he does, and I hope you guys get as much from this as I did. So go through your database that you have right now and find out your existing client demographics. Look at, are you first-time home buyers? Are you marketing to the out of the box? Because if we cast that wide net and try to grab everybody, we're not going to specialize in anything. It doesn't mean that you can't go get that wide net. It means focus on the one client, the client base that's yours, and then you can still catch that wide net. But what do you want? What do you want your message to be? It talks a lot about what's our why and who's our who, and all these things that we talk about in this meeting. And what he did with his performance is put everything together for me and help me understand who my client was. Looking at what's the age, what's the gender, what's the educational background, do you market to a specific zip code? Those things are great to know. Do you have married, do you have kids? These are all important demographics, because if you have a family, you know that you've got a chance to wow these people so that you create a lifelong event with this family, and they only use you as the mortgage broker because they know nobody else. The other is he calls it the existing clients psychographics, and that's about how do we know what our clients' problems are? Do we ask those questions? And here are the questions that he says to ask when you're interviewing a client. What's the number one problem you're faced with right now? So in a mortgage, and again, this can be used in any business model, but in a mortgage, how I address that is I go, before we start this meeting, would you mind telling me what have you heard about the mortgage industry, and what's your biggest fear right now that I can help overcome? The second question, what frustrates you about this process? So again, what have you heard? What's frustrating? A lot of feedback that I get is there's so much paperwork and everybody needs more paperwork. So what I try to do is I try to diffuse that and explain to them why that happens. Again, our whole goal is to get all the paperwork up front, but as we know as originators, when we pre-approve a client, that pre-approval is probably 60 days old, and we're going to need to get updated bank statements. So if we set the tone up front saying, hey, instead of having to give us this whole conglomerate of stuff, when we get to the final stage, you're just going to have to update a pay stub and a bank statement. It kind of diffuses the situation, and we've addressed the client concerns. What's the most emotional fear? This is a question I never asked. And when you go through, if I encourage anybody to sign up for this class, one of the things he talks about is this is a very emotional decision. People make decisions based on emotion. And it's not always about just the numbers. So it's very emotional. So if we can connect in that emotional state with them, we're going to be able to help them. And why not just ask the question? You know, what's scaring you right now, and talk about the fears, grab the emotions from them. What are you excited about this process? So when you talk to your team and hand that loan off to your team, you let them know. My team gets a sheet from them saying the client's biggest fear is they're not going to be able to make the payment. So we make sure during the process that our information and how we present, you know, what we need from the client is geared towards diffusing that. And the last thing they ask, and this is a pretty big one, and I haven't had the guts to ask this, so I'm working on that this year. And I'm so transparently honest. What's the one thing, if I could guarantee you'd pay a premium? So what he meant by that, and he had to explain that because I didn't quite catch it at first. Let's talk about rate shoppers. Our rate shoppers are to shop rates. But if we get on the front and said, okay, how do I stop you from shopping rates? What's the most important thing for you? What would you pay a premium for? If I'm going to give you incredible service, guarantee that we're going to close on time, and, you know, pay them if they're not going to close on time. We're going to give you, we're going to waive your underwriting fee if we don't. We are going to make sure that we talk to every agent. And if I don't do this one piece, I will waive this. So you put a guarantee on what you do so that you know that you're 100% committed, because you want to get them off shopping on the internet as much as you can. So why not address it up front? Why not pull the plug out and say, hey, I know you're going to want to shop. What am I going to do to make you not shop? What is it going to be? What's the one thing for you that is so important in this process that you'd pay a premium for it? And you'd be really surprised at some of the feedback that we got at the meetings. And I played this around with my friends to ask them what they would say. And he says, yeah, we do it a lot. We do a lot saying, hey, you need to stay with us. And we don't tell them you need to stay with us. We tell them why they stay with us and why we're different than the rest. So,
hey Michelle, I want to make sure a couple things connect, because what you're saying is so powerful. But there are people on this call that, one, don't realize, the kind of how productive you are. So real quick, just tell everybody how much business you closed last year as a mortgage professional.
So I did 110 million last year. We helped 198 families last year.
So everybody on this call, you're talking to one of the country's most effective, most productive mortgage professionals. And I know a lot of the top 100 loan officers. 34% of them use Mortgage Coach. And Michele is like the best of the best in terms of her intentionality, what she says and how she says it. So, before going to Darren Hardy's program, she was incredibly successful. And now what you're hearing from a professional that's doing over 100 million in business, and how they're making it even more effective. So I want to make sure everybody realizes that what they're getting from you right now is so powerful. And if you just implement the questions, implement everything Michele says, I promise you will make more money in less time. You will serve more families with less effort if you really get this. So anyways, keep going. I just want to make sure that everybody knows this is gold, pure gold.
Yeah, and I want to, and I have to thank Dave, because Dave introduced me to Darren, and then I thank Darren and Julia and all his staff, because I'm always in search for growth within me and within my business. And this piece, this client profile, was probably the most impactful for me, because I didn't know who my client was. I think I talked about this in one of the other meetings, but I thought my client was the person that I closed the loan with. That's not my client. My client is the person who refers me. And if you can understand that piece, and I would love Jen to jump in to know how impactful that statement is don't go for the ones, go for the tens. Go for the people that are going to refer you over and over and over. And that's how you create this huge database and this huge fan following. People call it raving fans, people call it wowing your client, whatever, but understanding that your client, our job as originators does not end when the loan closes. That's actually when their job, that's just a piece of the job. Our job is to create them to want to refer us. And that is where probably this, 3-day event, when I left that, I was extremely clear on what I needed to do to change that.
So I want to make sure everybody connects the dot on this, because I've interviewed top producers that don't get this, that from the first time she talks to that client, it's not just getting the, I want your social security number so I can run your credit report and do a transaction. And that's how most loan officers play. It's winning the loan. From the first question, she's going, how do I turn this person into a raving fan that by the time that I do pre-approve them, they do apply with me, they can't wait to refer someone else. Hear this out. She's saying that the definition of a past customer is not someone that I closed a loan with and gave me a 5-star review. The definition of a past customer is someone who gave me a referral. Mm-hmm. So I just want to make sure everybody really gets the game that Michele is playing and the focus she has. So keep it rolling.
Yeah. And that is, and how do you keep that person, right? And how do you make yourself different? And, again, that emotional connection with the client, I time block so much. And this is I don't have disruptors anymore. So when you do the insane productivity, the first module talks about getting rid of the disruptors. So my phone is off. When I'm on this, I am 100% attentive to this particular program right now. One of the things that I have really worked hard on over the last year after I started working with Darren, it's actually been with him for 2 years now, but I started working his program about a year ago. And because I kept hearing from clients, you sound too busy. Oh, I'm sorry you're so busy. Oh gosh, you sound so rushed. I am very proud to say that has not happened to me in almost a full year, because I block off that time to talk to that client and nothing else gets in that until I'm done and follow through to the end. So if I do a client interview, I'm not done when the client finishes. I do my handwritten thank you card to them. I put my notes into my CRM. I send it out to my team to give them instruction on what to do. And I create a follow-up task. And then I'm done. And then if I have 10 minutes left, I can break and go look at my emails or do whatever. But during that time, I don't do it. And the reason why I don't is because for a while there, I would just be back-to-back appointments. And then what would happen is I'd get home and I'd have 6 hours of work to do. And I'd be like, okay, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. I feel like I'm double working. So when you go through insane productivity, he'll talk a lot about that, about every time you stop an event and restart it, you create like 15 new things to do. It's going to take you 15 minutes to get back into it. So I encourage everybody. I actually was very excited. I signed up my team, every single person in my team, and we actually have we're reviewing module 2 and module 3 today at 1:00. And I just keep them accountable to it because I think it's so important, not only for them business-wise, but personal-wise, it's made a huge difference. So that's what I would say. Revitalize yourself, understand your client, redefine who your client is, and know what that is to you. If you can do that, the world's going to be open for you. So the next thing he gives, and I'm really hoping they give me permission to send this, at least this first page of this marketing. They have a marketing diagnostic that you have to do. And I think I outed myself the last time. It's 75 questions. And you remember, I consider myself pretty good at this job. And I got 19 questions with yes. And again, I lied on 2. So really I only got 17 questions right. What he gives you in this program is incredible. I'm just going to give you a sample, and I'm going to have to put on my glasses so I can read it. We talk about this all the time. Do you have a measuring? Do you know how to measure? Do you know where your referrals are coming from? So for instance, I'm going to tie this into mortgages. you have a realtor that sits there and they take up so much of your time. They are the person that calls you every Saturday and Sunday, even though you tell them Sunday is your day off and it's your day of rest. But they call you every Sunday, and the first thing they say is, I'm so sorry, I'm calling you on Sunday, but. And you go, oh gosh. But because you have this, we call it the FOMO, fear of missing out, you go ahead and take that call on Sunday. And when you actually measure it, I had one of those, and when you measure it and you look and you go, I got one deal from this client or one deal from this person all year long, and they took up 17 of my Sundays. They always call me at 8 o'clock at night and tell me they have to rush pre-approve. And it was so enlightening to be able to measure that, understand it, and go, I don't pick up that call on Sunday for that client anymore. So it gave me a sense of freedom and understanding who my client was. That realtor is not my A client, she's my B client, because she takes up too much of my time and doesn't deliver anything and doesn't respect my time off as well. So that was important for me. And let's see, and let me just pick up another question. Do you actively and systematically recognize your top referrers? So I have my A group realtors and my A group financial advisors and my A group CPAs and my A group clients that refer me. Was I going through and recognizing them every quarter? No, I wasn't. That was a no. And I was so surprised when I looked back and said, I can't believe I'm not doing that, because that's my client. That's who's referring me, and that's who's giving me business, and that's free advertising. So that was really important. And I'll just pick up one of them. And the other one was, can you without a doubt say that is 25% of your business coming from past clients? If you don't know where your business is coming from, the first thing I would do after this call is get all your past clients for the last 3 years. Hopefully you've got them in a CRM, and identify who the referring partner was. And that, if you don't have a way to measure that, it's going to take you a while to do it. But I promise you, take the weekend and do it. It's going to be very eye-opening, and you're going to know exactly who you need to market to on Monday morning. So, Jen or Dave, any comments on that?
Yeah, I want to insert something, because I believe if you're a referral-based local loan officer and you want to be super productive and amazingly effective and profitable, remember, good production is great. Profitable production is what matters going into the storm that we are in today. And that's why I love, one, the fact that you've redefined a past customer beyond just, someone you close the loan with, someone that has referred you business, but then, to make sure that you're doing annual reviews. You make that your number one priority. And if me saying it right now isn't enough, listen to the interview I did, I don't think it was last week on this Friday call with Wally Elderberry, where he literally went from 21 closed loans from past customers in 2017 to 81. By the way, 81 loans from his past customers. That's more loans than most loan officers do in an entire year. He did from one channel of business. Mm-hmm. So, listen to that call, link down below. Jen, anything you want to add?
Oh, I had to unmute myself. Oh my gosh, there's so much I want to add. I'm gonna do some, I don't know what they call these, but just like quick things, little quick things. So we're really talking about the client experience, right? I think that customer service is a word that is in the past now, because it's not just enough to provide service. And of course, as loan officers, we're expected to provide good service. The question is, and you're talking about this too, Michele, is, about the effectiveness, right? And I believe that there's two pieces to this. You need to be very effective, but you also need to be very efficient. And you can't be one or the other. You could be very efficient and have a great end-to-end process, but if it's not effective to the consumer, you're not going to get referrals, right? If you're very effective, but you don't have a follow-up system, you're not going to get referrals as well. Just like you were just saying, is how often am I talking or not talking to people? So I think that's really important. I want to back up just a little bit on a couple things. I love that you say you're a life learner. I'm a life learner. I think that there are a lot of top producers that are life learners. And I just, challenge everyone who's listening, whether you're a top producer, a mid producer, brand new, having a down year, whatever it may be, whether you're in this stall or you're stuck and you're feeling stuck, I want to challenge to ask you this. Are you really stalled and stuck, or are you just being stubborn? Are you not taking the extra steps, getting up an hour earlier, pushing everything aside and taking a moment to talk with your client rather than, providing them with a checklist that says, hey, I need all these things. And I think this is really key too, is, while all of us that are in Mortgage Coach are so much better than loan officers that are just giving a loan estimate. And we already know that. We're leaps and bounds ahead of them. But that can't be the only thing that you use to develop a relationship with the client. It's one thing, and I dare say, we have a tendency to hide behind keyboard confidence, like I'll just send an email. And now we're to the point where we're saying, well, I'll just send a Mortgage Coach total cost analysis. But we have to go even beyond that these days. And if you're not willing to do that so that your client has a better experience, then I would be concerned about your practice. I just would. So this being present, super, super, super important. We've talked about that before. I can definitely talk about that here in a few minutes. But you're also talking about this, Michele, that you and I always talk about, which is the difference between being on demand and in demand. That comment that you made about that weekend, the user, I'm going to use this, the Energy Bus is a great book to read, because I thought, gosh, that's a vampire realtor, right? She's just drawing and pulling from you. So working, the difference between being on demand and in demand. And then the other is working with people that complement, not complicate your practice. And that's what she was doing. She was complicating your practice. And, so you're thinking that you're jumping through hoops and providing her with this wonderful customer service, when in fact you don't even have deals with her to provide customer service to. She doesn't have her act together. So that's some of the things that I just wanted to say, to kind of roll it all together and give you some sound bites.
Love it. I love it. I love it. One of the things that you touched on was, I use the word remarkable when it's incredible, like when it's something beyond. So something you said about customer service, and he addressed, it is expected that we have customer service. Mm-hmm. So how do we go beyond that? How do we become remarkable? So that was so important to me too. It was like, I try to tell my team, and they go, I'm not the accolade kind of girl. I don't give a lot of accolades. And they go, we don't understand why you don't do that. And I go, because that's your job, that's expected. And I said, when you go above and beyond, I said, do I not, like, oh my God, congratulations, great job, bonus you out, do whatever I need to do. I said, if I were to tell you great job every time you did a job, I said, great job has no meaning anymore. So the same thing with clients. Just because we sent a mortgage coach, and Dave, I was a failure at my mortgage coaches my first year, because I would send them out and that would be it. I go, voila, I did the mortgage coach. Everybody should be so awesome. I'm so awesome. But I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't call and follow up. I wouldn't tell the client, explain it to them, because, the first couple mortgage coaches I did were about 10 minutes long. So a little bit too long for a mortgage coach. So, you redefine, you get in, you practice, but it's the follow-up. It's the making yourself an exception. It's making sure that you know what you're talking about and can explain it in words, because sometimes you might have to change the question to get a different answer from your client. And if you don't talk to them and you make them listen to your video and you don't follow up and say, how did you like the video? Did you find it informative? You may have already lost the client because they may not have understood it. And I said, and if you can go in and ask them and draw some questions, and that's a lot of what Darren talks about, is drawing from your client and looking and listening to them and saying, okay, when somebody's gotten silent, you need to go and look, and why did they get silent, and re-ask a different question to re-engage them. And it was big.
So guys, I want to jump in real quick because I want to make sure everybody got this. And did you just hear the way Michele talked about her team? Like the standards, like she is just the best of the best, have higher standards than the rest. And they have things that are remarkable that they build into their process that they do consistently. So for everybody in mortgage coach land, delivering a total cost analysis, that's great. That's important. That's valuable. But to hear what she said, if you didn't ask hopes and dreams questions so that you really connected emotionally with people, you know, when you do give them the total cost analysis, it's not going to be as remarkable. And so on the front end, hopes and dreams, connect emotionally, Michelle's questions. And then just as importantly, and to her point, if on the back end, you don't ask the question, hey, was that helpful for you? What did you think about that? You know, and by the way, don't lead them. Like, wasn't that great? You know, no, don't lead them. Just humble and like curious. Hey, how'd you like that? Was it helpful? If you don't do that, those bookends, you're not delivering something remarkable and exceptional. So I love that you guys brought that in. You did too. You know, I'm going to change how I say it. You know, it's not enough to deliver a TCA. You need to get hopes and dreams. You need to deliver it in a way that says, I listened to you, and then you need to get feedback. Jen, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to say two things. One is, you know, high tech, high touch. Mortgage Coach delivers high tech that blows people away, which is fantastic. But incorporate that high touch, you know, and that gets back to what you were saying before about being present. You know, I had done a survey probably 4 or 5 years ago with my top A players, A pluses and A's, and said, if you could describe me in one word, what would it be? People were like, you know, caring, communicative, you know, all these great words. 1%.
Hey, Jen, you're cutting out on us. Michelle, is that me or is Jen cutting out on us?
I think Jen's cutting out on us. I think she's frozen right now.
Okay, so Jen, I'll text you offline. Oh, you're back. But here's what I want to do. We're at 9:33. Michelle, I want you to keep riffing with ideas. I do, with about 15 to 10 minutes left, I want to make sure we go through the 12 insane productivity reminders just fast. It might only take 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So keep riffing, but just keep in mind, let's get through the 12 reminders at some point like that. Let's make that the back bookend to today's call.
Okay, great. Okay, so the other thing, and this is a worksheet that I'm going to share with you guys, it's called Making Love, right? So this is something that you can actually use for you and your team, but you can also, I actually took what he gave us and I actually applied it to my client group. And it's, what does my client love about the process? What do we love about, what does our team love about what we do for them, so that I can, you know, engage my team as well as engaging the client. And then so when we were defining our clients, we went through what are 6 things that we can come up with that our clients have been disappointed about. So, and those are the things that we're working on this year. And then what are the 6 things that they loved about us? And those are the things we're amplifying this year. And then what are the, for me, I went more into the accounting part of it. What was the cost per loan on these particular ones? And so right now we're in the middle of defining what was the cost per loan on each one, what type of client gave me the better yield, and maybe should I move my client base into that yield. Something else that Dave touched on, which is, Darren did something to me and he made me take a challenge, and I took it, and I'm so grateful that I did. In this environment where we are coming back into a normal market, so it's going to be every loan counts, right? I believe that every loan always counts anyway, but where everybody's starting to reduce their fees, I actually increased my comp plan by 10 basis points. And I did that because when I worked the numbers, and when Darren gives you this worksheet to work the numbers, I actually increased my profitability by 25% by increasing 10 basis points. Because remember, all my costs are already built in at that loan. So that 10% is actually pure profit, and it actually increased my conversion to a 25% increase in income for me. So I started that the day I left that conference. And I am super excited because he's correct. That 10 basis points nobody cared about. They didn't even know about it. And I'm actually more profitable now, and not as stressed when, you know, comes time for the slower times of the year. So I will share that with you guys. I absolutely loved it. And then the other thing is that I wanted to touch base.
Michelle, real quick. I just want to make sure. So these are deliverables, like their documents that you're saying you're going to share? Is that what's right?
Yeah.
Because I'm getting some questions about it. So folks, she will post these in our Facebook group sometime when she posts them. And I just want to remind everybody, there's a file. So like if you go into Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind, click on files, and all the documents that we share during these groups are in there. And these documents that she's referring to, I'll make sure get in there soon. So for everybody asking questions, go ahead, Michele.
Great. And then the one other thing that he really talks about a lot is, okay, do we do an exit interview? So I know 90% of us send out a survey. Oh, rate me on Zillow, give me the 5-star review, do the social survey monkey, blah, blah, blah. But how many of us actually pick up the phone and actually call the client and do the exit interview? And one of the questions that he challenges you to ask is, what could I have done to make this experience better for you? So instead of making the assumption that somebody that gives you a 5-star review, that the experience was perfect, he wants you to dig deeper and say, is there anything that we could have done to make the experience better for you? And again, it's a big learning experience. And it's also, remember, the most important human feeling, and back to emotions again, is people want to be heard. So how cool is it that you call somebody and say, thank you so much for the 5-star review, but I want to check in with you and make sure that we did everything that we could to make your experience possible. Is there anything we could have done better for you? And when you do that, he says, when you do your exit interview, he goes, it's probably the most important part. And this is where you tagline and move them into your being your referral partners, is you rate them. He calls them 9 to 10 are your promoters. These are the people that absolutely promote you, that love you to death, and everything goes well. Then you have your 7 people who score you. I do a scale of 1 to 5, so he does a scale of 10. So a 9 to 10, he calls them promoters. 7 to 8, those are indifferent people. He says those people will never refer you. Never. He goes, so you've got to work on them to make them want to refer you. And then he goes, you've got when you have a scale of 1 to 10, anybody below 6 is what they call them detractors. And he says, if you don't know what to market to this year, he goes, the first thing you do is you go to those promoters, that people that scores you, 9 and 10s on your scorecards, and you go and thank them. And you put them on something that they get every quarter, and you thank them, and you thank them, and you thank them, and you thank them. And he goes, and then on the 7 to 8s, he goes, go back through and find out why those people didn't have, we're just, yeah, it was okay. Those are those people. He goes, find out if there's a way to make those people better. And he goes, and then the detractors, he challenged us and said, you go back to those people that had a bad experience and you call them and you find out, why did you have a bad experience? And is there something we could have done? What could we have done to do better? And again, he feels that by allowing the client to hear that you listened to their review of it wasn't great, instead of running away from it and saying, I'm just never going to talk to that client again, and trying to create them into a promoter, that he feels that you're going to have a bigger business. And I agree with him. I'm not one, when I see a bad review, I'm going to call the client and find out why they gave us a bad review. Now, remember, there are still what they call terrorists in our group. You always have that client that's a terrorist. That client do not call them, because that client is going to drain from you. That client's going to drain your resources. They're going to drain your time. And again, client meaning realtor, past client, not just talking about clients. If those people drain from you, get rid of them, because you're going to free up so much more time to take those 7 and 8 people and move them up to 9 and 10 people. I think that was really eye-opening for me as well. And again, guys, that's day number 1 of the conference. And there's so much more that I didn't get to go over, but I just wanted to share these things with you because I thought it was so important, understanding you hear us all the time talking about making that connection with the client, using Mortgage Coach to set yourself apart. But what else can we do? And that's what I'm always in the search for. What can I do to be better? What can I do? And I don't want to be a fake. I hate fake people. So when I call a client, I want to make sure that I'm in it to help them. And I always tell them my number 1 job is to do no harm. So when somebody calls me and says, hey, you should refinance a client, you can make a quarter better in rate, I'm going to look at the client's profile. I'm going to look at the client's notes and go, okay, well, they've got, they're struggling month to month, and this isn't going to save them any money in the long run, and I'm not going to do it. And I will tell the client, my first number one job is to do no harm for you. And if you feel that this is the best thing for you, I'm going to stand beside you, but let's talk this out first, because I want them to know that I'm just as invested in their financial future as I am. And to wrap it up at the final, one of the things I learned from a couple of my wonderful friends that are in this business and have been for so long, and my wonderful MME group that I'm in, is, you know, making sure that when we're closing the loan, that we set the expectations of what is going to happen in the future. So when we say our goodbyes and tell them, hey, thanks so much for an incredible experience, and you've asked the question of, is there anything that we could have done different? You go further and you say, I just want you to know, I'm going to be doing annual reviews for you. I'm going to be sending you that mortgage coach presentation. We're going to do annual reviews for you. There may or may not be a benefit in it, but we want you to know that we care. Second thing is to let them know and set them up with the expectation of, if we see a change in interest rates or a change in something, we will absolutely give you a call. We will be your first call. And so when you see that email come from us saying, hey, let's get an appointment set up, we think we can change the business, know that we're doing that for your benefit. And I think if you do those simple things, that you're going to do exactly like the other gentleman did, take it from 26 past clients to 81 overnight, even in a down market.
So guys, I'm pumped. What she has said a lot, but she's netted it out for everybody. I am going to write a LinkedIn article on this interview where I call out just the key concepts, because we're talking about optimizing our effectiveness and our productivity as a mortgage professional. So stay tuned for a LinkedIn article where we talk about the bookends of the total cost analysis. We talk about how she's redefining the customer and what she's trying to accomplish. A few of Michelle's top questions that she asks every borrower. Stay tuned. We'll have that in an article format, and then how she takes that from transaction, turn it into a client who's going to refer business, to now turning it into a client for life. What are the key concepts? So what I'd like to do now is, this all came and was inspired. It started with Insane Productivity that Michele was part of. And then Michele, a lot of what you shared today was because you did a 3-day immersion program with Darren. What's that program called again?
It's called the High Performance Forum. He does it 3 or 4 times a year, and you have to go through an interview process to get in. But don't be scared of the interview process. They just want to make sure, again, it's all about being committed, because you're in a tight room with 100 individuals. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's actually not. And you guys are very tight, and you're talking about what's going on. And I do like the way Darren teaches. He has a workbook. He makes you put keywords in, so that you have to, again, pen to paper. That's how I learn, pen to paper. And then I take that and then I rewrite it again or put it in the computer. So his style of teaching works very well with my personality.
Well, and that's part of what makes Insane Productivity so great, is it's not just like, oh, I went to a presentation and I learned this, or I read a book. It's the fact that it's designed to go over a period of time. So you're not just fire hosing yourself. It's a 12-week program, and every week you listen to some content, you take notes, you do homework, and it's skill building. That's one of the reasons why I think it's the best productivity program on the planet, because it's a skill building, several week program. So what I want to do as we wrap up today's call is, when like this group that you're listening to this Friday call, this was all inspired that when I created Insane Productivity for Mortgage Professionals with Darren as a product, I went through it myself, and I went through it with, I think there was a couple hundred loan officers that signed up for the program. And Michele, Jen, Danny Harani, Todd Bookspan, we all wanted to create this cheat sheet. So we learned hundreds of things, but there were 12 things that we wanted to have on a piece of paper, printed out on our desktop as a reminder. And so these were the 12 things, call it the cheat sheet. And I just want to riff through these, because I think it'd be a good reminder as we wrap up today's call. So, the first one was just Miracle Morning, start your day right. Jen or Michele, anything you want to add to number 1? And remember, let's keep it 30 seconds, 1 minute, so we can get through all 12.
Yeah, just real quick, I do that every single morning. I love how LRAD every single morning. And if you can't do it for an hour, which is what it's set up to do, then do it in 6 minutes, which is the 6 items, right? The savers. Do each one of them for 1 minute. It's an opportunity to get a checkup from the neck up, get yourself ready to go for the day. So I would say absolutely you need to do this. This is one of the main things that I do every single day.
And if you don't do it, everything else falls apart. I mean, if you don't get enough sleep at night, like, and by the way, get it. He talks about it. If you're not getting enough sleep, it's like your operating system isn't going to be able to perform. Michele, anything you want to add to this?
Nope.
Okay, next one. Have reviewed your big 3 goals today and do this weekly. Michele, anything to add to that one?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you when you get into the ludicrous on insane productivity, he talks about setting your goals too far ahead. So he really tries to keep your goals within this 90-day and maybe a year period. Don't try to go too far out, because especially with technology and things today, if you ask yourself the question, what was my goal 10 years ago and what is it today? It wouldn't be the same goal. So keep your 3 goals present and attainable and within a 90 to 6 month goal period so that you can actually measure it and know if you're on track. Number
3, are you tolerating crimes against insane productivity? Remember, you get in life what you tolerate. And by the way, this was one of the biggest takeaways for me, because, you know, I just had, and by the way, it's not like I want to come across as like I've mastered this and I don't tolerate any crimes against insanity, whether they're my own crimes or crimes of others. But just getting this concept was really useful for me. Michele, anything you want to add to this one?
No, I love it though. I like crimes against insanity.
Yeah. Jen, anything you want to pile on here?
Now I'm just trying. I'm learning. You know, every day I'm learning, and when I'm distracted, I catch myself and say, "Doggone it, move away!" Right? So it's the awareness that I think is so key here.
So, by the way, as we're going through these, most of them are pretty self-explanatory. You can just like intuitively get. Give yourself a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being no one is getting away with crimes against insane productivity. Give yourself a score on that one. Number 4, did you make decisions based on your big 3 values? So first of all, you've got to have big values. And then as you're making decisions, are you making those so that they align with those? Michele, anything to add?
I love, oh, sorry, my dog's going to start squeaking her ball right now. I love it because I live on my 3 core values. I'm sorry, let me stop her from.
By the way, we love this. The only thing we do now.
Sorry. Let me throw it first. Go get it. And close the door. There we go. Okay, so I live on my 3 big core values, and I really try to live it. And you know, sometimes I have to put it on my screen when I'm having a bad day. I'll start gearing toward that bad Michele again, and those are the days that I actually will put the stickies back on and just remind myself of what they are and why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Love it. Jen, anything you want to add to that?
You know, I've said it several times. I'm going to say it again. You can go to success.com and you can purchase, and Darren put this together, is Living My Best Year Ever. I believe it's $49. It is a daily rhythm so that you have your 3 big goals in front of you to ensure that every week, every month, every quarter, it's a reassessment, but it's a rhythm of making sure that all of your decisions and all of your activities align with and focus and head toward those 3 big goals. So for $49, you can have a book that you use, and it's thought-provoking, and every day you're that rhythm, and it lets you know if you're running into those rumble strips I've talked about, where you drive down the road and and you want to, oops, sorry, I'm back on track. So I encourage you to get that.
Love it. Number 5, have I shown, gratitude, gratefulness to the people around me today and this week? And again, I put this together so that it was a daily reminder and it was a weekly reminder. And just ask yourself that question. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I do want to put a promotion in for what was my favorite interview of 2018. It was an interview with Josh Metal, and it's called Gratitude for Gratefulness. And it's where he talked about how he does, 2 hours of time block prospecting with his team and how they do a grateful huddle before it. Great strategy. I'll put a link down below to that interview and just ask yourself that question. Number 6, did you achieve your prospecting goal for the day? So that call with Josh really crushes number 5 and number 6. Michele, anything you want to add to these two, 5 and 6?
I love it. I love Josh's interview as well, but I also use, Todd's win by noon as well to really track, did I hit my goals? So, I go and total up how many thank you cards I did, how many everything I did, and I'm like, ooh, I'm short. And I'll actually catch my thank you cards. I have to do 10 a week. So if I don't do 10 a week, I go on Saturday night. That's what I'm doing, finishing my thank you cards.
So I cannot emphasize enough how valuable and how important Win by Noon is, not just because Todd's a good friend, he's part of this community. I mean, it's a book that was built for Mortgage Planner. It incorporates a lot of the concepts from Darren's program. It incorporates concepts for the best mortgage professionals that have ever lived. I am also a big fan of Darren's program that Jen mentioned, although I look at that as more like, that's a good exercise to go through and get clarity. It really aligns with the program. But from the day-to-day, managing, the operating system that manages your day-to-day as a high-achieving mortgage pro, boom, Win by Noon. And then the other thing I like is that they have a realtor version. So it really helps you say, hey, I am going to be super productive and effective, and it's going to drive me. And now I've got a tool and a platform where I can partner with realtors, and it's designed around that. So big fan, check it out. Number 7, are you better today than yesterday? It's just a good reminder. Remember, print this out, go through this list every day, go through this list every week. You will be better. Number 8, did I have a one jam session today? Now Darren, I think he recommends like 10, and we kind of all assess that if you're a mortgage professional, let's face it, there's 2 kinds of loans with problems, loans with solved problems. And a high producing, badass mortgage pro can't do 2 jam sessions a day. That's just not, your job is, being in the trenches, getting it done. But you know what? You could do 5 a week, and so we adjusted it. We kind of figured that it was 5 to 8 is what the high performing mortgage person should do. And then we even made it so you can kind of check them as you go. Michele, anything to add to that?
I think jam sessions are probably the most important part of the planning of your week. It allows you the time and letting your team know you're not available during that time. Those are the times that I do my, critical thinking or my master planning, or, just sometimes I'm going to tell you, I take an hour off because I needed that hour off during that jam session. My brain needed to shut down. I do a jam session after the mortgage coach for an hour because I take what I've learned from the mortgage coach this Friday event and I implement it, or I look at it and see how it can affect or how I can reflect on it. So those are important things for me. And I also make sure that my team schedules some time for jam sessions. We're trying. So I'm at 4 a week right now. And there are times that I'll do more, but I have 4 scheduled jam sessions.
And so here's the deal. This is where it's working on your business, not in your business. And if you want to be highly effective, highly productive, the people that are most effective, they schedule jam sessions, they get them done. If you don't know what a jam session is, listen to another interview that we've done on this and go through insane productivity. Number 9, did you create 2 total cost analysis experiences today? So, if you're a high performing loan officer and you've got lots of leads, this is easy. If you're not, do annual reviews. Go back into your database. By the way, if you're new to the mortgage business and you don't have a database, go adopt one. Go talk to your branch manager and, let them know that, hey, not only do I want to be getting after it with referral partners, bringing in new business, I want to adopt some past customers. Who can you give me where the loan officer doesn't work for the company anymore? So create 2 TCAs a day if you want to be highly effective, highly successful. Jen, anything you want to add to, 8 or 9?
excuse me. You know what? I'm feverishly multitasking, which we're not supposed to be doing, but I'm answering a lot of questions that are in our chat room right now, just some things. But yeah, with jam sessions, you know, I mentioned before, the key is to compartmentalize or batch your activities so that you're in a jam session. Someone asked, what is a jam session? So I'm about ready to answer that for them in the chat room. But you know, in that 30 to 60 minute block of time, you're working on one thing. It's either you're doing all prospecting, or you're doing all of your annual reviews, or you're sharpening your axe, as Michelle's been talking about, where you, you know, create a presentation or think through and do some research on some of the numbers that Michelle's talked about today about, you know, what is your cost per loan, what is your avatar for your client. So there's all kinds of things that you can do in these jam sessions. The key is, don't just keep working like you were outside of the jam session, changing your hat and doing, focus in on one or two things to get them off your plate. So that's what I'd like to say about that. I love jam sessions. I'm a huge proponent of those things all the time.
So guys, I'm getting a lot of questions on where do I get this, you know, list to download. It's in the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind. I uploaded it into Slide. I don't know. It's part of SlideShare, a LinkedIn product. And so it's at the top. I'll leave it in announcements for a few days. You can click at the top and get to that. So number 10, are you clear on what success means this week? And is it aligned to your bigger definition of success? Remember, one of the things we created, because I think my two biggest takeaways from the Insane Productivity Program was how important it was to get clear on my why, my personal goals, and align those activities together, and then scheduling the jam sessions. So I made the time and the space to actually execute on that. You know, that was, you know, I was already doing the Miracle Morning. You know, I mean, that was something I've already kind of installed. But this I installed from Darren's program. We do have a mortgage coach why worksheet. I will put a link to that. That was something else that we created to help mortgage professionals get clear on their why. If you're a leader on this call, whether you're a regional or a branch manager, I would just say, if there was one takeaway you got from this, is schedule some time for you and your team to understand, like, what's our why, and have them get clear on that at a personal level, and then make sure you're clear on that at a corporate level so that you're really killing it as a team. So we got 2 more minutes. Wait,
I just wanted to add, make sure that it aligns with your core values. You know, that's another thing that Darren talks about, is what is our core values? You know, so if your core value is to be, you know, caring, but your activities don't show that you're caring, they're out of whack. They're out of alignment. So make sure it's in alignment with your core values as well.
So last 2, how digitally addicted are you? Are you laser focused? Are you very ADD? Are you out of control? You know, I mean, I think by most people's definition, I'm always out of control and ADD. By my definition, you know, I'm in and out. I fight this battle every day, every hour of every day. But guys, the more we can be intentional about this, the more we can establish our own personal standards and execute around that. Big productivity enhancer. Last but not least, did you multitask too much today? These two kind of go hand in hand, but it really is true. The most productive, most successful people in America on the planet Earth, they have the right balance, you know, in terms of what they're doing and how they're doing. We left room for you to add a few more reminders. You know, we even recommended some books, some other things that you guys should do in terms of how you read books. This right here is, you know, one of the things I'm passionate about is being a lifelong learner, you know, and so for me to do that, there's some things I need to do from a skills perspective. I need to read books. I need to do webinars, live events. So guys, I hope today's call was valuable. Oh, you know what? One last thing. A lot of people are asking how to get signed up for Productivity Mastermind or the Insane Productivity. There is a link at the top of the page here. But for anybody that watches this a couple weeks or a month later, if you go to the actual description of our Facebook group, because it was founded on Insane Productivity, there's just always a link in our description. There's always a link on how to sign up. And remember, you get a $1,000 discount if you sign up through the Mortgage Coach link. And with that said, Michele, any last words of wisdom to wrap up today's call?
And don't forget to also sign up for the Darren Daily messages. It's just a 2 or 3 minute little affirmation every day. And I send it to clients, I send it to realtors, I send it to my family, and they all love it. So it's not just about mortgages, it's actually life. I love it.
Love that.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks for spending an hour with us. I will, if you're watching the recording in YouTube, I'll put a link down below. Jen Duplessis, you rock. Thank you for co-hosting today's call with me.
Thanks for sharing, Michele.
All right. Thank you so much for listening and helping, Jen. You've opened my life up a lot, and so have you, Dave.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.